We need to slow down. This is a car that can go over 300 miles per hour. Bugatti plans to sell the lightning-fast speedster. The Chiron Super Sport 300 Plus will cost $3.9 million.
Bugatti built an empire by convincing the world that it stood alone. For more than a century, the brand has defined automotive prestige, creating machines that seemed untouchable in both performance and exclusivity. But what happens when a smaller company begins outperforming the giant on its own battlefield?
It's experience, and we think to combine everything together, we are looking forward to a fantastic future of Bugatti.
Hidden behind the glamour of hypercar headlines is a remarkable story involving a self-made entrepreneur, a revolutionary transmission unlike anything else on the road. A car with a theoretical top speed that exceeds Bugatti's greatest achievements, and a question that continues to intrigue enthusiasts around the world. Is Koenigsegg merely another hypercar manufacturer? Or something far more disruptive? Let's dive into the evidence and uncover the truth. The empire Koenigsegg threatens. To understand why the Jesko Absolute is so threatening, you first need to understand what Bugatti actually sells. Because Bugatti does not sell cars. Not really. What they sell is the feeling that you have reached a mountain summit that no amount of money can simply purchase. You must be chosen. You must be vetted. You must be considered worthy by a brand that has spent generations treating exclusivity as its most sophisticated engineering achievement. Ettore Bugatti founded his company in Molsheim, Alsace, in 1910.
This is one of the biggest and most important assemblages of Bugatti items ever under one roof. And it's not just cars, the cars that Ettore built.
From the beginning, the philosophy was not speed for the sake of speed. It was perfection for the sake of identity. Ettore once described a Rolls-Royce as the world's best lorry. He meant it as an insult. For him, a car was not a vehicle. It was a sculpture that happened to move. That philosophy, obsessive, aristocratic, entirely unconcerned with what the competition was doing, became the cultural DNA of a brand that would survive 2 world wars, multiple corporate owners, and a century of automotive revolution without losing its essential character. Then came the Veyron. When the Bugatti Veyron arrived in 2005, it did not just set records. It redefined what the word hypercar was allowed to mean. 1,001 horsepower, 253 miles per hour top speed.
Fastest production car in the world, up to its top speed.
That top speed is 253 miles per hour.
A car that required 16 separate cooling radiators to prevent the engine from destroying itself under sustained full-throttle use. A launch price of $1,200,000. A figure that seemed almost fictional at the time, and that the automotive world processed slowly, like a number too large to immediately believe. The Veyron did not compete with other cars. It occupied a category it had created for itself. That was the point. Then came the Chiron, 1,479 horsepower from an 8-liter quad-turbocharged W16 engine. A configuration so deliberately excessive, so wildly over-engineered for any practical purpose, that no other manufacturer has ever seriously attempted to replicate it. The W16 is not merely a mechanical device. It is a philosophical statement. It says, we are so far beyond what anyone actually needs that we are building things purely because we can. The Chiron Super Sport 300 Plus became the first production car to officially breach 300 miles per hour in a recorded test run.
To get everything worked together in one moment. And to head for the 300-mile boundary, it was like heading for the pinnacle of automobile competition.
Reaching 294.2 miles per hour on the Era-Lessien test track in Germany with a professional driver behind the wheel. Bugatti owned the headline for months. The automotive press amplified it globally. The story was reinforced. Bugatti is the ceiling. Nothing exists above it. And now there is the tourbillon, their latest declaration of dominance. A brand new, naturally aspirated V16 engine paired with a hybrid electric system, delivering a combined output of 1,800 horsepower. A body sculpted in a wind tunnel for hundreds of hours. A starting price approaching $4 million. Only 250 units will ever be built, and every single one was allocated before a production car had been completed. The name itself, borrowed from the most complex and prestigious complication in traditional Swiss watchmaking, tells you everything about how Bugatti positions what they make. This is not transportation. This is art with a power rating attached. That is the Empire. Vast, perfectly constructed. Over 115 years in the making, and it rests on one foundational premise, that Bugatti occupies a category of one, that no comparison is possible, or necessary, or worth making, which is precisely why a self-taught Swede built in a converted chicken farm in southern Sweden is so deeply uncomfortable for them to acknowledge. The dream that built Koenigsegg. Christian von Koenigsegg was 5 years old when he watched a Norwegian children's television program in which a bicycle repairman transformed an old worn-out bicycle into a gleaming racing car. Most children would have watched that and moved on. Christian von Koenigsegg watched it and made a decision that he never revisited. He was going to build the greatest sports car in the world. Not drive one, build one. He was born in Sweden in 1972. His family had a degree of financial stability, but no industrial heritage, no automotive connections, no obvious pathway into the world he had decided to enter. He studied business. He had no formal engineering qualification. He had no factory, no institutional investors, no corporate parent willing to absorb years of losses while he found his feet. What he had was an obsession, so complete and so consuming that it eventually became more powerful than every practical obstacle the world placed in front of him. And the world placed many. In 1994, at 22 years old, he founded Koenigsegg Automotive with the stated intention of building a world-class supercar.
CEO and founder of Christian Koenigsegg.
Here I'm 22 years old. I had started my first company when I was 19. It was a trading company.
His first workshop was a converted chicken farm in Olofström. He hired a small number of people who shared his specific variety of productive insanity. He began designing his first car on a limited budget, with no guarantee that it would ever run, let alone perform at the level he had committed to in his own mind since childhood. The established automotive industry found this charming, in the way that powerful institutions find non-threatening dreamers charming. With polite, dismissive smiles and very little genuine attention, the Koenigsegg CC8 was unveiled in 1996. It ran, it performed, it was real, and the polite dismissal continued. Because a single prototype does not a car company make. The path from a working prototype to a functioning production business is one that destroys most people who attempt it. Christian von Koenigsegg did not get destroyed. He got faster. The Koenigsegg CCR broke the McLaren F1's production car top speed record in 2005, a record that had stood for 11 years and that the automotive world had largely assumed was permanent. The CCX followed. The Agera followed. The Agera R set world records for the combined 0 to 300 kilometers per hour and back to zero test.
It's extremely fast. It's 450 kilometers per hour fast, so it's the world's fastest production car.
Measuring not just raw speed, but the total dynamic capability of the vehicle. Each car was more technically ambitious than the one before it. The Regera then arrived and introduced a direct drive system so unconventional, eliminating the traditional gearbox entirely, and replacing it with a hydraulic coupling and electric motor arrangement of Koenigsegg's own design. that established automotive engineers openly questioned in print whether it would function reliably in practice. It functioned. It functions brilliantly, and it represents the most important single characteristic of how Christian von Koenigsegg approaches engineering. He does not ask whether the established solution is good enough. He asks whether a better solution is theoretically possible, and then he builds that instead. What matters most about Christian von Koenigsegg is not the records or the engineering firsts, impressive as both are. What matters is the system he built them inside. Koenigsegg is privately held. It has never been acquired. It answers to no board of directors focused on quarterly earnings, no group strategy committee balancing resources between 17 competing brands, no shareholders requiring automotive ambition to be profitable before it is extraordinary. Christian von Koenigsegg answers to his own engineering conscience. In the automotive world, where the cost of failure is measured in hundreds of millions of dollars and institutional pressure toward conservatism is enormous, that freedom is almost impossible to maintain over decades. He has maintained it for over 30 years. And in 2018, when the Jesko was unveiled at Geneva, and the automotive world finally went completely silent, the consequences of that freedom were fully visible for the first time. The car that refused compromise, the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute, is named after Jesko von Koenigsegg, Christian's father, the man who wrote the checks that kept the dream alive during the years.
As a tribute to your life and your legacy and everything that you've done for Koenigsegg. And so the new mega car will be named the Koenigsegg Jesko.
When no institutional investor would come near it. The name is not marketing. It is a debt being repaid in carbon fiber and horsepower. And the machine that carries that name is one of the most extraordinary objects human beings have ever assembled from raw materials and mathematical principles. Begin with the engine. The Jesko Absolute is powered by a 5-liter twin-turbocharged V8, producing 1,600 horsepower on E85 biofuel and 1,280 horsepower on standard 95-octane pump fuel, that any owner could purchase at an ordinary filling station anywhere on Earth. 1,600 horsepower from a 5-liter V8. Hold that number alongside the most relevant comparison. Bugatti's W16 displaces 8 liters, uses 4 turbochargers rather than 2, and produces 1,479 horsepower in the Chiron. Koenigsegg extracted more power from an engine 60% smaller in displacement using half the forced induction devices. That differential does not happen by accident. It reflects a fundamental difference in engineering philosophy. Bugatti pursues magnificent excess, solutions that are spectacular and deliberately over-resourced. Koenigsegg pursues efficiency so extreme it becomes its own form of aggression. The flat-plane crankshaft allows the engine to spin to 8,500 revolutions per minute, a figure more associated with naturally aspirated racing engines than turbocharged road cars. The consequence is an engine character, nothing like the Bugatti W16's smooth, almost electronic power delivery. Where Bugatti wraps the driver in effortless performance, the Koenigsegg V8 is physical, visceral, and demanding. One car isolates the driver from the violence beneath the bodywork. The other involves them in every single revolution. Neither vision is wrong. They are different answers to the same question: what should a machine at this level feel like from inside the cockpit? Then there is the transmission. Koenigsegg's light-speed transmission. The LST is a 9-speed multi-clutch arrangement that executes a gear change in under 2 milliseconds. The fastest dual-clutch gearboxes from the world's most advanced manufacturers complete a shift in approximately 100 milliseconds. The LST is 50 times faster. Clutch packs arranged in parallel allow the system to pre-select multiple gears simultaneously and engage any of them the instant the management system identifies the correct moment. Koenigsegg filed the patent. When the application was submitted, no prior art existed sufficiently similar to reference. They invented something that had never existed before in a field studied for over 100 years. That is not incremental improvement. That is a category that did not exist until one man in Sweden decided it should. The aerodynamics declare the car's purpose without ambiguity. The standard Jesko generates over 1,000 kilograms of downforce. Grip figures that belong on a racing circuit, not a public road. The Absolute is a different machine entirely. Every surface was redesigned around one objective: achieve the lowest drag coefficient ever recorded on a production road vehicle. The result is 0.278, reached by replacing the fixed rear wing with an active low-drag system and managing under-tray airflow with an obsessiveness that borders on clinical precision. The theoretical top speed is 330 miles per hour, calculated from first principles, publicly defended by the engineers who produced the number. Never validated in a timed run, not from lack of confidence, but because no straight on Earth is long enough and smooth enough to attempt it safely. Bugatti's record stands at 304.7 miles per hour. The Jesko Absolute ceiling sits 25 miles per hour above it. The complete car weighs 1,320 kilograms. The monocoque chassis is a single piece of woven carbon fiber forming the entire structural backbone, weighing less than carry-on luggage. Every component that could be carbon fiber was. The tires required a dedicated multi-year program, with Michelin producing a construction that exists on no other road vehicle. No limitation was deferred. No compromise was accepted. 125 units, all sold before the public unveiling. $3 million each. No phone call from Molsheim. No second thoughts. The silence is the strategy. Here is the question the mainstream automotive press never asks directly, because asking it plainly creates a problem for the relationships their business model depends on. Why does Bugatti never mention Koenigsegg? This is not rhetorical. It has a traceable answer. Over the past decade, Bugatti's senior executives have given hundreds of interviews to automotive publications, broadcast programs, and digital platforms. They have discussed engineering philosophy, heritage, customer relationships, and future product strategy. At length and with considerable eloquence, they have referenced Ferrari, McLaren, Pagani, and Lamborghini as brands operating in adjacent spaces. They have addressed the competitive landscape of ultra-luxury automotive with the confidence of people who genuinely believe their own product is without equal. And Koenigsegg, the company that holds theoretical performance records above anything Bugatti has ever produced, that has invented transmission technology with no historical precedent, that sells out every model before public revelation, does not appear in those conversations. Not once. Not in a single public exchange. The strategic logic is clean and ruthless. Bugatti is owned by the Volkswagen Group, one of the largest automotive corporations on Earth. Koenigsegg is an independent company employing a few hundred people in southern Sweden. In a direct comparison, on a specification sheet at a comparable price point, Koenigsegg's technical numbers are superior in the categories that buyers at this level actually interrogate. Acknowledging Koenigsegg requires Bugatti to do something their entire brand identity exists to prevent: defend themselves. The moment a Bugatti executive publicly frames the Jesko Absolute as a legitimate rival, the narrative becomes a competition. In a competition, losing is possible. For a brand built on the premise that no meaningful comparison exists, that single acknowledgement is not a marketing problem. It is an existential one. It changes what Bugatti is. There is also a customer dimension that Bugatti cannot comfortably examine. The 125 people who paid $3 million for a Jesko Absolute are not anonymous collectors from outside Bugatti's universe. They are drawn from the same global pool of ultra-high net worth individuals who populate Bugatti's client lists. Some of them own both. Some of them chose the Koenigsegg for a specific purchase instead of a Bugatti. In a world where clients spend multiple millions on single vehicles, brand loyalty is real but conditional. And every Jesko Absolute sold represents a transaction that, under different circumstances, could have been a Bugatti. That mathematics is not one Molsheim is eager to publicize. The automotive media's parallel silence has a different but related explanation. The major publications and video channels that define the mainstream conversation around hypercars are structurally dependent on access to the large manufacturers. Bugatti provides press cars. Bugatti invites journalists to exclusive events. Bugatti's marketing investment flows through these outlets in ways that create implicit editorial preferences. Not corruption, but the natural gravitational consequence of any long-term relationship between a media operation and a major source of both access and revenue. Koenigsegg, producing 125 cars for buyers who found the brand without needing magazine endorsement, has no comparable need for that ecosystem. The ecosystem, in turn, has limited commercial motivation to consistently elevate a brand that disrupts the established order of who the important players are. The result is a kind of arranged blindness, a collective orientation, never explicitly agreed and never explicitly maintained, that simply does not place the two cars in the same sentence on the same page. Bugatti stays in the Bugatti conversation. Koenigsegg stays in the Koenigsegg conversation. The reader who encounters both conversations separately never quite gets to ask the obvious question that placing them alongside each other would immediately provoke. But the cars exist in the same world. The same buyers see both. The same garages hold both. And in the spaces where the marketing does not reach. In the conversations between collectors, between engineers, between the people who actually operate at this level, the comparison is made constantly, clearly, and without deference to either brand's preferred version of reality. The threat Bugatti ignored, the Jesko Absolute, is not the most technically ambitious thing Koenigsegg has built in recent years. That distinction belongs to a four-seat grand touring car called the Gemera. And the Gemera represents something that no established manufacturer has been willing to attempt. Because the institutional constraints that govern large corporations make it effectively impossible for them to try. The Gemera is powered by what Koenigsegg calls the tiny friendly giant, a 2-liter, 3-cylinder twin-turbocharged internal combustion engine producing 602 horsepower from a unit, approximately the size of a carry-on bag combined with 3 electric motors, delivering a total system output exceeding 1,700 horsepower in the latest specification. 4 seats, 4 doors, a boot large enough for actual luggage, for actual people making an actual journey. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in under 2 seconds. A full electric range for urban driving with 0 local emissions. A combined performance and practicality envelope that no other 4-seat production vehicle in the history of automotive engineering has come close to replicating. Bugatti's equivalent concept, the Galibier 4-door, was proposed, developed extensively, and ultimately cancelled because the corporate mathematics of bringing it to production inside the Volkswagen Group's financial and strategic framework proved impossible to resolve. Koenigsegg built the Gemera and sold it. Beyond the existing model range, Christian von Koenigsegg has been explicit about the company's long-term technical direction. Koenigsegg is pursuing camless engine technology, developed under the name FreeValve, which eliminates the camshaft entirely and controls each engine valve independently through electrohydraulic actuators. The theoretical efficiency and performance gains from this approach are significant. Engines with no camshaft constraints can vary valve timing, lift, and duration independently for every valve on every cycle, responding to conditions in real time in ways that camshaft-based systems fundamentally cannot. This is not incremental development. It is a structural rethinking of how internal combustion engines function. Bugatti, with its brand identity built around the W16 and its corporate obligations to a group, balancing resources across a portfolio of brands, is not positioned to pursue this kind of exploratory work with the same freedom. The pattern in industries disrupted by technically focused outsiders is consistent enough to be instructive. The established leader builds the best possible version of the existing paradigm. The outsider builds something that changes what the paradigm is. Bugatti built the best possible W16, the most refined dual-clutch gearbox in the conventional sense, the most successful integration of extreme performance and luxury refinement that corporate automotive engineering has ever achieved. Koenigsegg built a gearbox 50 times faster than anything else on Earth, an engine producing more power from 60% less displacement, and a four-seat car that does things the established manufacturers publicly said could not be done. The most dangerous competitor in any industry is not the one standing visibly in front of you, with comparable resources and comparable ambition. It is the one you decided, years ago, was too unconventional and too small to warrant a serious response. Bugatti made that decision about Koenigsegg when Christian von Koenigsegg was hand-assembling his first car in a converted poultry farm in Olofström. More than 30 years later, a Jesko Absolute is sitting in a garage somewhere in the world, owned by someone who could have bought a Bugatti and chose differently. And Bugatti is still not saying the name out loud. Sometimes silence is confidence. Sometimes it is the sound of a very large, very powerful institution, hoping that if they never acknowledge a threat directly, it will eventually become someone else's problem. The Jesko Absolute is not going away. Koenigsegg is not going away. And the conversation that Bugatti has been carefully avoiding is going to happen eventually, whether they choose to participate in it or not. One empire built over 115 years. One man, one chicken farm, one obsession that never stopped. Bugatti controls the story. Koenigsegg builds the car. The Jesko Absolute has a gearbox 50 times faster, an engine 60% smaller, and a theoretical top speed that no recorded production car has ever touched. Bugatti says nothing, because acknowledging it changes everything, and they know it. The silence is not confidence. It is strategy. Now the question is yours. Bugatti Tourbillon or Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute? Which car actually wins? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit like if this video told you something the mainstream press never will. Subscribe. Next video is already waiting.